Hey, welcome everyone to another consumer tech advice video. Also actually a consumer privacy video. So I have playlists for both topics, consumer tech and as well as privacy technology, how to be, privacy focused with technology. I actually put in both playlists because I think this is a very serious topic that we should not just take it lying down. Like we really oppose this, and I'll explain why. So if you want to see the written version of the video, you can find a link to my website in the video description. In my website, I'll have all the source links and articles I'll be showing you throughout this video and discussing the problem. So the problem is basically this in a nutshell. So I'm going to explain the problem, show you some of the sources, and explain how bad it is and it's getting progressively worse, and then explain my solution at the end of the video like I usually do. What should you do to take action on your part? But I'll explain my solution at the beginning. The problem here is government officials around the world are starting to say, we need to, in order for us to protect our children with online safety so they don't watch, I'll put not safe for work. I'll say that because I don't want the YouTube algorithm to pick up on a certain word I'm trying to imply. So it's a 4-letter word, starts with the letter P and ends with the letter N. Okay. They are trying to block this not safe for work content and from kids from accessing it. And they want to invade your privacy. Okay. They want a copy of your government ID and our credit card, and they want to track what you're doing on the internet. There's a better solution to this, okay? It's called parenting. I know I have small kids. Me and my wife have 3 spare cell phones. These are really old cell phones that we don't use anymore. Instead of, discarding them and giving them to e-waste, which I'm really opposed to, we're like, why don't we just put it in a lockdown container kid mode that they can only use apps that we approve. They're all Android devices. They're Samsung devices. Samsung has it's called a kid mode. It's just like a simple button you press and it activates and it password locks everything. We don't use that. People aren't aware that if you have an Android device and you load it with a child's profile, you can link it to something called Family Link. From there, our kids cannot install anything without our permission. They need our password. They cannot go to the web browser. Again, they need our consent. It's just fully locked down. And they only use these cell phones when they're going on a long road trip. They're not allowed to use it otherwise. It's called parenting. Simple as that. So let's dive into some of the issues and how it's getting worse. So this issue that I'm discussing has been around in the United States, especially for a few states for a little while now, but it's became very popular amongst headline news from the UK because the entire country has enforced it so that the UK's Online Safety Act took effect last Friday. This is composed as of August 3rd, requiring proof of age to access certain content. That certain content is considered the 4-letter word I mentioned earlier, adult-themed content. To protect the children. The children are the excuse here, which to me is sickening and disgusting that government officials don't know how to use the internet or just are bad at being parents or using children as an excuse to monitor what you're doing on the internet. So basically, if you want to access adult-themed content, you need to prove that you're an adult. The way to do that is to scan your government ID, or in some cases, they'll accept your credit card information, basically a way to track you. So the government will have your personal information tracked against what websites you're visiting. Here's the worst part. A lot of these verification systems are not government run by the UK. They're with affiliate third-party companies. So your government ID that you have to scan with your webcam or whatever is not going to go to a third-party database company. You have to hope it's not going to be sold, or you have to hope there's not going to be a data breach. And imagine this. Let's say you're watching certain content that's now being cross-checked against your government ID. If that data leaks, your web history associated with your government ID could be leaked out. So if you're looking at certain adult-themed content that you want to consider to be private, it's out there exposed potentially if there's a data breach. And data breaches happen all the time. And government websites and databases, as well as financials, for example, are hot targets for hackers and malicious bad actors. Now, the problem with this type of act is that some items, like even some Roblox channels or whatever the heck they're called, I don't use Roblox, so you have to forgive me here, are being blocked even though there's no adult-themed content. It's just being blocked because there might be the hint of an adult-themed subject of some kind. And what's crazy to me is that if you want to buy liquor in most civilized countries, they want to see your ID to see, are you old enough to consume alcohol based on your country's rules? Here in Canada, it's 19 years old. I think the UK is 18, States is 21, whatever. The point is, if I want to buy alcohol, I would show my government ID to show that I am old enough to consume alcohol. But they would not scan it, take a picture, upload it to the database. What if you were in school and want to learn about how the reproductive system works? that's adult themed content, perhaps? So the UK is what sparked it online, and this is also happening in Australia where they're blocking a lot of information like social media networks. I think in Australia, they're just like flat out basically saying, nope, this is a problem. And here's another great example is the T dating service, which had information exposed from thousands of women. It's about 72,000 images, including 13,000 selfies and photo IDs were leaked on the T website. And what's crazy is that in the UK, what happened is after that law passed, Proton VPN signups in the UK surged 1,400% after Online Safety Act comes into force. After minutes of it being enforced, rather, when you read on more into the article, which is absolutely nuts. That's one VPN service announcing their spike. And get this, it gets worse. One UK official floats blocking kids from using VPN. That's right. They're trying to say now, maybe, you know what, because they're trying to bypass this and, you know, we're trying to protect the children, we need to monitor everyone who buys a VPN. You have to show your ID or credit card to use a VPN service. They don't understand that VPNs can actually protect you from spying from your internet service provider, because internet service providers can track everything you do on the internet, and they do sell that information. It's been proven many times. These people absolutely have no idea how the internet works, these government officials, or they do, and they're using children as a sick excuse to monitor and invade your privacy. In fact, here in Canada, they tried to pass something like this a few years ago. It was just shot down, but it made it through Parliament. Yeah, it was being reviewed. And now there's a concern that's coming back. This gentleman here, who's a privacy-based lawyer in Canada, is talking about it coming back. And it's really disappointing to say. I think it's going to pass because Australia is doing something similar. The UK is doing it. The Canadian government's going to be like, yeah, we should track what everyone's doing on the internet. So going back to the CBC article, now we're talking about the United States, which has been making it very popular. Unfortunately, it's really sad. Last week, the US Supreme Court upheld a Texas law requiring again, I'm not going to say it because of the YouTube algorithm, I don't want to flag as anything inappropriate, requiring adult sites to verify the ages of all visitors after a judge previously struck it down as a violation of free speech. A lot of states are enforcing this right now, and a lot of these adult-themed websites are just like, we're going to block the states then. We'll use geolocation. If your IP address originates from there, we're just going to block it. And a lot of people from the United States, or rather the states blocking this and tracking your information, are just using a VPN to get around it. YouTube is getting in on this as well. They had a blog post back in July 29th, basically saying that, you know what, we need to protect our children better. We're not doing a good enough job. I know we have the YouTube Kids app, but we can do better. We're going to basically use AI to kind of estimate your age. Are you actually 18 and allowed to watch certain content on our YouTube streaming service? And they're going to use AI to kind of guess what age you are based on your watching habits, so your previous watching history, how long have you had an account on YouTube for, you know, if you've had an account for years. So the credit card thing, I'm going to leave it as a gray area. Not happy to see this information, but I'll leave it as a gray area. But why do they need a government ID? Why not just a credit card and just leave it at that? Because Google is hoping you will upload your government picture and they can track more information about you, because Google sells data. They sell your personal information. Using an Android device, it's all being sold. That's why I got a Google Pixel, a little Graphene OS. Privacy-based Google stuff is just locked down on a separate profile. So Google's using all these laws from the United States, Australia, the UK as an excuse to implement it into their own services, because it's the perfect cover-up to say, well, government officials are doing it, we'll do it, but we're going to sell your data. So here's the ultimate thing. Here's the thing that you can do to get around this. First and foremost, do not give your government ID. Just don't do it. If you have to use a website that requires you to flash your government ID, potentially even your credit card to just view sites that you should be able to use because you're an adult, don't do it. It will get leaked. It'll probably be used against you. Just simply do not do it. Find a workaround, find another method, find another website. Don't do it. The other option you can use is one of the workarounds. Use a VPN service. Now, some people might argue, well, if all the countries in the world start doing the same thing, there's no VPN service you can connect to, no country you can connect to. I highly doubt that. Some countries will fight against this and be like, we're not going to do this. The biggest problem I think that's going to happen here, and this is the part that governments don't understand with their terrible excuse for collecting information. That's all it is. It's just policing the internet. People are going to sail the high seas and start pirating content. That includes adult-themed content, the ones that they're claiming to protect against. That also includes maybe rated R movies that are very gory and violent movies. They're going to start pirating it. Why go and flash your government ID when you can pirate it for free and also not have to show your information? Piracy will go up, I guarantee it. Also, there's also the possibility that a lot of people start going to the dark net. And that's where you have some websites that are safe, They're not illegal. They're just hosted there because they don't want to be monitored by federal agencies. But there's also some of the most cruelest type of websites you can see that is absolutely horrific. There'll be more exposure to it because people will figure out, hey, let's just go to the dark net. So the government has introduced something that will cause more problems. The more freedom you take away from people, the more people rebel and go against. Personally, I heard this from somebody else. I can't remember who the story was exactly. I can't remember which country. But they tested this concept. What they did was they partnered with certain facilities like pubs, bars, and stuff. You go there and you flash your government ID as if you're about to buy an alcoholic drink to prove you're over 18. Instead, you're not buying alcohol. They'll give you a special ticket that has like a random 12-letter code. Use that code and you punch it in onto the website. You now have access to your adult content, whether it be adult-themed content or violence or whatever it may be. You can watch it unrestricted because you've proven you're 18, but you're anonymous. Now, some people are like, well, they could just hand those papers out to anybody. Yes, but we're human beings. It has to be based on a trust factor, right? First off, that's the same thing you do with alcohol. Are you going to trust that the person you're selling alcohol to has a fake ID or not? Watching certain websites is far safer than it is trying to, get alcohol underage. It's just a bad comparison. So why are we not using this anonymous method? I think it's perfect. It should satisfy the government. It should satisfy people's privacy. I'm not be happy about it, but it's a happy medium. That thing that was mentioned to me by my friend is not the best solution. I'm sure there's better solutions, but why are the government agencies not working with cybersecurity experts to find a common ground solution where we can protect children from these websites, which I agree with, but in a manner that's more privacy-based focused? However, the current solution, again, is just good parenting. Make the effort. You don't have to be tech savvy to block websites on a phone or on a computer. There are so many tools that can do it for now. It's like 1 or 2 clicks and it's done. It's not difficult. Be a parent. Watch your children. Watch what they're doing. If there is like a local MPP, member of parliament, or whatever your government calls them, write a letter to them saying this is not acceptable. This is a petition. Sign the petition. This is not acceptable. If you're being policed on the internet, where can you be private then? Nowhere. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, be sure to check out my website link in the video description. Hit the like button, it does help. Subscribe, it literally helps my channel grow. Maybe consider hitting the super thanks button, which is just below this video. It's that little heart icon because I'm making this here on 10:22 p.m. on a Sunday night because I have to do these things after hours. And that's pretty much a wrap.